All right, guys, so I don't know if you're kind of able to tell. Yeah, you can totally see all that white smoke come from my exhaust. So it's been sitting for a little while, but my big indication was when I looked into this coolant reservoir. Let's see if I can get a better, so you can see there's bubbles coming out, and then I'll come and show you guys the exhaust plume that's coming out. So yeah, clearly this thing blew a head gasket. I'm gonna get this front end torn apart so my engine hoist doesn't cause any damage, and I need to get these headlights off to get retrofitted. So let's get into it. First order of business, let's make sure that this 1-ton engine hoist actually fits and can pull this engine, because this is all I got for right now. Well, it's been quite a while, guys. So last part you saw, it was me taking apart that front end of the LandCruiser, and it's been a little while since then. It's been about 3 weeks. So now I think I'm gonna have a lot more time to dedicate to this project in general. So essentially what's going to happen is I'm just going to drain all the fluids. I'm going to secure this as best as possible. I even purchased wheel chocks specifically for this predicament that I'm in here. So I'm going to drain the oil, I'm going to drain the transfer case fluid, I'm going to drain the transmission fluid, drain the coolant. I know I don't have to, but I think that's going to be the best course of action, just not to make a mess, for one, and two, it'll make it a little bit lighter because, as you probably saw in the setup video or setup intro, I'm basically testing a 1-ton cherry picker for this engine. So I'm pulling out the whole drivetrain. The engine itself weighs 662 pounds fully dressed. And I'm sure the transmission and transfer case weigh probably another 600-700 pounds. So I'm going to be pushing that upper weight limit for this cherry picker. Now, I do have another engine hoist on the way, but I wanted to get this started as soon as possible. I'm working on a little bit of an incline here, which is not the best, not ideal, but we're going to make it work anyway. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the factory service manual, and I'll flash different sections on the screen as I get to that part and do short explanations. I'm trying to cut these videos down significantly because I think they're a little bit too long. But I'm going to show you every step, everything that you have to do in order to basically take this engine out and pull it out. So with that being said, let's get into draining these fluids, because that's the first step for any engine removal, that's for sure. Figured I would give you guys a good view of this coming out, because I already started looking and this thing looks pretty soupy. Hopefully there's not a ton of water in here, but I already see some milk. Oh yeah, that's coolant. That's supposed to be water, or that's supposed to be oil. Oh no, you can't tell it's red, so we've got some milky substances. Well, if we were confused before, It's definitely a blown head gasket. There's no confusion now. Let me get a close up for you guys here. This is ultra milky. I don't know how to hold this camera without getting it completely dirty, but yeah, so that would indeed be some milky oil. So we're just gonna let this drain, and hopefully it doesn't overflow my catch can. That would suck. In before it actually overflows it. Fun fact, that's actually the first time I've ever seen coolant and oil mix like that in a vehicle that I've owned. I've seen it in other cars, but definitely the first time in a vehicle I've owned, so that's interesting. And all that brand new coolant I've just put in there, but it's mixed with oil, so we got to replace it. Anyway, oh well, I'm gonna let this drain. I'm gonna let the forbidden chalky milk back there drain a little bit and then start buttoning it up. We got the forbidden chalky milk. Pretty gross.
The next day.
All right, we're back the next day. So let's get started on the real work. So first thing we gotta do is take the hood off and a bunch of other stuff we gotta do, but let's start with that and we'll do the rest. So I made a list of all the steps that need to be completed in order to remove the engine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flash, like every time I remove something, I'm gonna flash the actual FSM page on the screen. And then if you guys need to read it, you can pause it. But these are all in order for the FSM. Obviously I abbreviated a lot of it just so for sake of easiness, but this is just to help keep me organized while I'm filming as well. Like many other projects that require removing the engine or removing the drivetrain like we're doing in this case, we got to start by removing the battery and the battery tray. This is just to remove it out of the way and for us not to worry about it. I'll be putting all these bolts back just so I know where they go and they don't get lost. We're going to start this process by removing the radiator, and obviously you got to remove all of the hoses that are connected to the radiator, including the upper radiator hose and the lower radiator hose. We need to also remove the fan shroud and the fan to get it out of the way. And I'm going to loosen the mounts up top, which I actually end up reversing. But now we're going to remove the lower radiator hose from the radiator itself. Now we're going to tackle the trans-cooler lines, and these trans-cooler lines can be a little stuck, so you want to take a set of pliers or something to kind of just wiggle them back and forth and get them off of the radiator itself. Now I was really struggling with the mounting situation of this radiator, mainly because the front bolts of the radiator were corroded, so I ended up taking apart the front end just so I could access the corroded front mounts. And they were not pretty when they came out. They're very rusted and they need to be replaced because one of them was actually bent and is now broken. So once these get removed, then we can finally move on to getting the radiator out of the vehicle. In the meantime, my assistant Alvin is going to remove the air cleaner box. Now with the radiator mounts finally free, we can remove the radiator from the vehicle and check that step off of our list. Next, we're going to get to the low pressure power steering line and check out this satisfying noise it made when it came off. Now the throttle cables are next, so I'm going to start with the cruise control cable and then go to the accelerator cable, and we can check those off our list as well. And now it's time to remove these very old and crusty heater core lines and coolant lines that need to come off. These are going to be getting replaced very quickly. As you can see, they might give you a little trouble if they're a little old, but you're just going to have to do your best to work your way in there with some pliers or some kind of pick or something to get up underneath there. And before we do that, we're going to remove the brake booster line before I get all of this off, so we can check that off of our list. I just need to get up here and stop being a basically. There we go. Now we're going to move on to getting the wiring harness off of the firewall so we can get this checked off of our list. Next, we're going to work these evap lines off as well as the fuel lines, and I'll show you that right here. We got to disconnect that fuel line right there. That goes to the fuel filter. Now it's time for the AC compressor. So you can remove this AC compressor and just set it off to the side, or you can leave the AC compressor on and remove the lines if you purge your AC system or get it removed for you. So you have to undo the belt and then undo the 4 bolts from the side, and you should be able to tie it to the side, or of course just remove the lines like I said. Here I'm going to use a bungee cord to secure the AC compressor to the coil spring so it doesn't go anywhere. Next, we need to remove this lower radiator pipe. I removed the pipe entirely. It just makes it easier to get it out of the way. So these can get stuck as well like anything else, but we can finally check this off of our list. Now my assistant Alvin is going to move to the inside and remove the glove box so we can get the wiring harness for the ECU out and out of the firewall, because that all comes as one piece when pulling the engine and drivetrain. Here are the ECU connectors that need to route out through the firewall in order to pull everything. Just be careful not to damage your wiring harness when you're doing this, and just pull them through the hole in the firewall. So here I'm removing the wire that goes to the distributor, and I'm also removing the alternator wires that need to come off in order to free the engine from the rest of the harness for the battery. The connector to the alternator was a little difficult to get off, so I had to get back in there with some pliers, but eventually we ended up getting it out. Here we are disconnecting the starter wire. This was a little bit difficult to get out, but once you got it out, you can just set it to the side on the engine bay. I chose to disconnect the high pressure power steering line as well, just to get it out of the way. And of course it's going to leak fluid, so make sure to catch it. This is an optional step, but I chose to remove the power steering reservoir just so it didn't make a mess on my driveway or my garage floor. Now we're going to remove the front sway bar from the frame, and then I will work on the front drive shaft later on. I chose to remove the front drive shaft completely. You can probably just remove it from the transfer case, but I just wanted it out of the way so I didn't have to fight with it at all. Now I'm going to go and disconnect the sway bar and links so I can remove the front sway bar entirely. This is just to give enough clearance for the transmission to tilt out of the body of the vehicle. So I highly recommend doing this. just wanted to mention that you do need to go to the interior of the vehicle, remove the shifter, and remove the transfer case shifter and the transfer case shifter lever, which Alvin was doing for me while I was removing the stuff on the bottom. Now let's get both of these drive shafts out of here. Alright guys, so that's day 2 in the books. As you can see, it is dark behind me. We took a long break. This actually wasn't all that difficult, but we've got a couple more items left on the list. We've just got exhaust, the cross member for the transfer case, and then the engine mounts, and she should be ready to come out. So you will probably see the next part of this video like right now. All right guys, we're back for another day. Let's get this exhaust off, and should be just about ready to pull this. Might not pull it to this weekend, but at the very least, let's get this exhaust off and continue on doing this stuff. So be warned guys, pretty much every single nut that was on this exhaust, this little downpipe collector that we've got going on here, fought me every single inch of the way. So just be prepared for that. I didn't soak it in any type of penetrating oil or anything like that. If you've got it, I would use it. So just keep that in mind when doing the exhaust. Give yourself some more time. Take it slow. Don't rush anything. Try not to round any bolts. But, you know, I'm foreshadowing a little bit because I actually do round one. But I will explain how I got that out a little bit later. Fought this one a lot guys, but after many breaks of resting my right arm, I was able to finish this up and get moving on to the next portion. I almost got all the exhaust bolts off without rounding or breaking anything. And there was one. So basically I rounded one of the bolts. I'll actually take you over here so you can see. This thing is just like super tight. Excuse me while I finagle you here, but you can probably see right here, that is the last nut I have left. So what I'm going to try to do, and I've done this before with these sockets, so these are just like Matco 12 points. I'm going to try to hammer a 13 on there and see if I can basically use it as an extraction socket for this nut. So I've done it before. I don't know, this one's pretty tight, so let's see if this works. If not, it's going to be a long day. I can sense your doubt through the screen you're watching me on, but I assure you, I've done this multiple times. I recommend using a 12 point that's a size smaller and definitely an impact, and preferably something on the higher quality so you don't ruin your socket basically. Granted, it won't be a perfect socket, but I think the only time I've ever used this 13 was to do this exact same thing, and it can be done. You don't need to buy special extractor sockets. Sometimes, you know, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Give it a try if you've got these or if you got something similar, and let me know how it turns out for you. Well. So, looks like I was successful with the 13 mil technique in extraction. So I got that bolt off, or that nut off. One thing you guys are gonna learn about this channel, or learn about me, don't ever doubt me. Don't count me out. We got it, success. All right guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Got this exhaust off. Did what I could for time being. I still had to work today, so let me show you a little update. As you can see, not the headers, but the I guess downpipe, the collectors from the headers are off, and everything else is unplugged, ready to go. I don't know if I got everything. I'll find out as I start pulling this out, I guess. But now all we need to do is remove the motor mounts, and then we got to remove the cross member, and she's ready to come out. So that might be an interesting adventure this coming weekend, trying to just pull this engine out of here in general because it's very heavy, and everything else, the transmission and transfer case that goes with it. But I have no doubt that I can do it. Thinking about how I'm going to do it, so I've got all week to kind of plot and see what that's going to be like. But that's it for today. You should be able to see the next part, which is us pulling it out. So peace out. As we get this engine hoist set up, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel for me and maybe hitting the notification bell so you can get notified of when my videos come out, I would very much appreciate it. But in the meantime, we're getting this load leveler set up. I'm basically just looking for larger bolts to fit through the chain links that I have set up. But once we get that found, we are ready to go. All right, guys, the time has finally arrived. We're going to take this engine out. Basically going to time lapse a lot of it because we're going to need to be kind of attentive on how we're taking this thing out, because we're pulling it out on a slight uphill, and I don't have the front end removed. So that might change, but for right now I'm going to try to do it like this. So let's get into it. Last but not least, we got to remove the cross member, because without that, none of this is coming out. So make sure you guys remove it. I believe these are 14 or 16 mil bolts. Don't remember off the top of my head, but let's get this out of the way. All right, so we're free of the motor mounts right here. I think now it's just a matter of inching it forward and up, basically. Oh no. I think it's time to rethink our strategy a little bit. I'm wondering if it might be getting stuck. Yep, it was totally getting stuck. I think we're gonna have to tilt it back, dude.
Huh? The jack's not doing anything.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull it out, it's not doing anything.
All right, guys, so this, if you look, so point it up towards the transmission. So like follow the wire. Do you see that transmission? This little harness is attached to the transmission, and there's a little connector right here, right there, that you need to release in order for this engine to come out, which I didn't see previously. I just want to let you guys know. It runs all the way over top of the transmission, and then right back here at this little isolator thing. But yeah, just so you're aware. All right. Now what are we stuck on? Oh, that's what we're stuck on. The starter. All right, so this might make some commotion. Let's just rotate this, perhaps. There we go. Now we're getting places. All right, so we got about 3 feet left of strap. Come on, strap, don't fail me now. Oh boy. All right, strap number 2. So here I'm just gonna use 2 straps, one as a safety and one to actually do the pulling, and just alternate between the 2 of them. All right guys, so as you can see, our starter's getting caught on our motor mounts. So if you're gonna do this, just remove the motor mounts completely. not just on both of them, because everything gets caught on this thing. So remove those and you'll have a ton more room to squeeze the drivetrain out of this guy. So just a quick tip for you. There it is. Now we're more free. This is what it takes to pull a LandCruiser drivetrain in your or a LandCruiser drivetrain in your driveway.
You're gonna tell your viewers they need a GTI to pull their. You have to go higher, dude.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna tension this other strap and reposition, basically. Are we free? Are we free enough? I think so. Note to self, when I do this next time, position this crank handle to the other side so we have more room to move that. I think we're good enough. Yeah, we're just free floating right now. All right, back to more sketchy ratcheting. Get my safety back in here. All right, here we go. Yeah, I think we're barely gonna clear. I mean, it's gonna get to the point where we're not gonna be able to rely on that anymore. Well, why don't we do this? Hold on. Why don't we get, I have another strap and we'll tie it off to this hook up here, up to the hoist. So we can adjust the tilt without using this jack. All right, it's not the most ideal system, but. Okay. I know, dude. Well, I didn't know I was gonna get a sudden obsession with fucking giant Toyotas. It's like a process, you know. Not a good one, but a process nonetheless. Pretty much. Oh, dude. This thing is so heavy. Oh, it's also caught right there.
I think I was able to like move it somewhat right now, so I think it'll.
With both of us or what? Yeah. Why don't we do this? Why don't we let the air out of these tires so everything just fucking collapses down? I'm going to. Give us a little bit more room. I think that'll be fine. I'm gonna leave some air in there. Let's see. Yeah, I think now we're just gonna have to jack the whole thing up at this rate.
Is that clear something? Yeah.
I think a little bit. We only need like another inch and we're ready.
Well, we need another inch. I could just lift it over.
All right, He-Man. Is it caught on anything or is it just that heavy?
I think it's that heavy.
Jesus. There we go. Sheesh. It's a little big. There we go. Now we're floating. Yeah, I just need to get it over that driveway hump now. Whoa. Whoa. Better off coming back here. 1, 2, 3. There she is. Woo. All right, that's heavy. So going back in, we're gonna be pulling the front half of this in here. For something. Oof. Well, they were supposed to be. Now they're kind of not good because they're all cracked. So I probably wouldn't run these on a vehicle, but they're good for this. That's for sure. Go on the other side. I don't like putting my hands underneath for obvious reasons. I'm using a tire to secure the transmission and then jack stands on the motor mounts to secure the engine portion of this. All right guys, well, it's as easy as that. As you can see, we got her out. Really wasn't too bad, it wasn't terrible. It was just really heavy. So as you can see, I also took the condenser off. There's no way, with the equipment I have here, there's no way to get it out without taking that front end off. So just do it that way. Trust me, just get your AC recharged for like 60 bucks, 80 bucks, whatever it is. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you like this kind of content, obviously this content's not cheap. If you wanna leave a donation, not obligated to, I'm gonna have some links in my bio that you can hit up. Other than that, all I need you guys to do really is like this video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe, and stay tuned for part 2 where we start tearing this thing apart. Peace out.